Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri, and today I'm going to do a video response here to someone that asked a question on a video. Colin asked, so he said 950, which is a reference in this video here, good stuff. But why would anyone lie to get someone hired? It will just come back to haunt you, or as you put it, it will affect your brand here. So this is in relation to me talking about building a personal brand, talking about employers and people specifically, where basically you hire friends that aren't qualified, or you kind of lie on a resume to get kind of your foot in the door, but really this has to do with hiring people that aren't qualified. So why do you do this and why do people do this? Sadly, in most industries, probably everywhere in the world, the vast majority of people running firms are not qualified. You have really good individuals here and there, and usually this is enough to keep these organizations on the right track of making money and not going bankrupt. But this is why you see so many scandals. And I can give you a few examples here. So yes, people bring in their friends, and sometimes it's like, okay, I have a dynamic, amazing team here. I have a buddy of mine. He just lost his job. He needs, some employment. Yeah, maybe I can make a position for him. Maybe I have an opening. And so they think, okay, it's one person that's not super qualified. All they need to do is they're going to put them in as a manager. They just need to smile, nod, assign a little bit of tasks here and there. They don't really need to understand what's going on. They're kind of just going to be a puppet head. I'm going to pay them a bunch of money. They'll be happy. They'll get some experience on their resume. And, nobody's the wiser, right? That's kind of the thinking of it. And that's sadly, like the person Colin here is pointing out, like it's going to destroy your personal brand. Unfortunately, there's whole rings of these idiots around the whole industry in general. And we've even seen a situation here. So there's an individual who was hired as an executive at a firm. He brought in a bunch of people. His budget spent millions of dollars on all these cronies that were good friends of theirs. And yes, this is a well-known bank. This happens literally everywhere, but they brought all their friends in. They made a bunch of promises. They worked for a handful of years, and then things weren't working out. And so magically they just let them go and they put a new executive in and some reshuffling happened. So I knew the guy was an idiot. I knew he hired a bunch of friends. I knew they wasted a ton of money, of dollars for this firm. They wasted all of it. Just blew holes through the budget. And again, there were no consequences paid besides basically just letting this individual go and the whole grouping of people they brought in. Now, years later here, I'm in an interview and a guy says, hey, do you know this individual? I go, yeah, I know him. And they go, what do you think of him? And I go, well, they brought him in and, he basically wrote this big promise on the wall that he was going to change the whole, bank and the structuring and the culture. And he's this amazing genius. And of course, if you look at their background, they don't have a quant background, but people are stupid and hire, idiots to be chief risk officers around the industry. And anyways, and so what happens is he asked about this. I said, yeah, he brought in a bunch of friends. He paid a bunch of them. He left. He goes, oh, okay. I just wanted to know what you thought of him. I said, yeah, I wasn't a big fan. The guy kind of screwed us. And this other individual at this other bank goes, oh, yeah, I know him. I went to work at this other firm with him, and he was bragging to me X amount of years ago that this guy was making, millions of dollars. He was vastly overpaid. He brought in a bunch of people, and they were just like cruising and coasting and making a ton of money. So yeah, this happens a lot more frequently than you think. And unfortunately, this happens even at the high levels. This isn't like you brought in a friend to hopefully figure out if they can get their foot in the door at the bottom of the pyramid. Often there's just a bunch of buffoonery going on throughout these organizations. And this is one thing I'd like to see change in the banking industry and industries in general. But how you do it, how you go about it, that's going to be a whole challenging piece here. But why would you do it? Again, your friend needs money. People bring friends in to do this. Of course, anyone who has some, honesty, transparency, and are fair, as I pointed out in my personal branding video, wouldn't do it because it's a dumb, stupid move. And even when I have people I know that say, hey, Dimitri, I really need work, even if I have an opening and I know they're not going to be a good fit, or I know they're not the hardest worker, I'm not going to bring them in for the job here. So people do it simply because they need a tit for tat. They're hoping to, if I bring you in and then later on, which often happens, I get fired or they get fired and there's incompetency, as I mentioned, and then they reshuffle everybody and they go, oh, well, you were the managing director at this firm or the chief risk officer, or I don't know, even just like a senior analyst or quant or something. So obviously you've worked at these big global firms or this other firm, you're really smart, so we're going to hire you. And so people keep hiring and hiring, and these little, I don't know, parasites get transferred around the industry, and then they collect and bring their friends with them. And then we have these issues where teams don't function. So yeah, I wish management was really smart and would figure this out, but often management doesn't care, or it's like a friend of a friend, and so then they don't dare say anything. And yeah, it burns your personal brand. And to be honest with you guys, I have not found a significant number of people in the industry that are just like stand up, honest, transparent, fair people. Now, there are definitely groups of them I've worked with, people I just absolutely loved working with, honest, truthful, fair, hardworking individuals. But for the higher up you go in the hierarchies, a lot of these institutions, unfortunately, the corruption and kind of the lack of expertise happens. And I think a lot of this happens for the simple fact that you didn't have the skills as an underling and you were just really nice to people and you had really good communication skills. So they promoted you. And then you end up at the top and you don't know what you're doing and they just pay you really well. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. That's why people hire people that aren't qualified. Typically those that are doing the hiring of hiring your friends aren't qualified either. And they have this big puppet and charade going on, and it happens at all the banks. So anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And as always, until next time.